Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back to do my initial thoughts and analysis on the Steelers' first win of 2018, 30-27 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Doing this on Tuesday morning, just because the game was so late last night. I had other articles I wanted to write, so a little bit of extra time to kind of digest the victory, but as always, we'll have to go back into the All-22 and get a better feel for the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything else about Monday night's game. But just in general, good to get the victory. Obviously got very dicey at the end. Tampa Bay coming back, scoring 14 in the fourth quarter to make it a one-score game, and had a chance to tie the game or take the lead late in this one. But take the win however you can get it. And as Steeler fans are well accustomed to, these wins are always close. There are very few comfortable wins if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and so that's just par for the course. Just happy to get a victory, and I cautioned last week that the season was not over. Yes, there were serious concerns with this team and problems that needed to be addressed, but you get a victory here. You're 1-1-1. You got Baltimore this weekend. If you beat them, you're 2-1-1. You're right in control, or right there with the Bengals for the AFC North, division, and things are totally back on track. And it's not going to be the sky is falling feeling that it seemed to be after the Chiefs game, and it shouldn't have been as bad as it was. It's week 2. This team turns it around on an annual basis, and that's what happened Monday night. Start with the offense. Ben, again, to really put a game on his shoulders, to ask so much for him. Steelers not really run the football, especially in the first half. They did try to close out the game, but that's okay. I don't really care about balance in terms of the run-pass splits. I want to do whatever's most effective to move the football, and clearly that was through the air. And I thought Ben played really well. Obviously, the first interception was, hey, heck of a play by the safety, Justin Evans, but from then on out, Ben was fantastic. That 2-minute drive that he led at the end of the first half was maybe his best 2-minute drive, 2-minute drill that he's ever run. It was excellent. I mean, you go down the field with, I think, just over 2 minutes to play. You have all 3 timeouts. You use them all, and you get a touchdown with about 10 seconds left, and no chance for Tampa to do anything off of that. So you get that extra touchdown heading into halftime, and that was really critical. So Ben was excellent, escaping the play, extending the play, making some tough throws downfield, and his receivers helped him out as well. The running game was obviously pretty quiet. Connor, I thought, ran the ball tough late in the game, which is what you want to see from him, with some power, good ball security. I like the details that he shows, and again, just being an asset as a receiver. A guy that is not Le'Veon Bell in terms of how natural a receiver that he is, but a guy that really runs his routes hard, is quick with the tuck, gets upfield, and just gets positive plays every single time. And so you're seeing that trust develop between Ben and Connor in the passing game that you didn't see last year. Stephen Ridley got a couple carries, so a couple nice runs he averaged, I think 6 yards per carry. So it's good to see him get involved. Still waiting on Jalen Samuels' first NFL snap, but maybe that'll happen at some point. But yeah, quieter day for the run game, but they got the runs when they needed to, and that's all I really care about. You don't have to be 50-50 in your run-pass splits, but when you need to run the football, run the football effectively, and that's what the Steelers did to help close this game out. Receiving game, a lot of contributions. That's the when you talk about all the weapons the Steelers have, this is the type of game you want to see, where everybody's getting involved, everybody's making impact plays, whether that's Juju, who led the team in receptions and receiving yards, Vance McDonald with the stiff arm of the year, of the century against Chris Conte on a 75-yard touchdown. What an awesome play that was. AB obviously getting his touchdown, Connor being a check down option, Switzer getting involved with the touch, James Washington with a couple nice catches over the middle. So that's everybody getting involved, everybody kind of putting their hand in the pile. And that's what you want to see with a team that does have as many weapons as the Steelers do. But just can't say enough good things about Juju. His kind of feel for getting open, how he works scramble drills with Ben. Obviously the final, was it the third down, where Ben escaped the pocket and found Juju over the middle. A huge play, one of the plays of the game. And again, Juju turns 22 in November, so he's still a 21-year-old guy, second year in the league. He's been outstanding, and you're seeing again, absolute trust and confidence from Ben to Juju. And I don't want to say that Juju is 1A or 1B to AB's 1A. It's still 1 and 2, but it's a narrow gap in terms of the involvement and how how much trust and faith Ben has in those guys. And Juju's been the vertical threat too. I think he has 4 catches of 20-plus yards this year, and AB, I think, only has 2, and one was the screen that he cooked for a touchdown against Tampa. So with the deep ball not working, and that's still the one issue for Ben, is that deep ball just hasn't been right. His completion percentage is somewhere, I think, around 15% on passes to travel 20 plus yards this season, which is terrible. Last year was around 30%. So that's the one thing that this offense still needs to show, that vertical threat consistently. Because Ben could have had AB for 6 on one play down the right sideline yesterday, and he just threw it out of bounds. So you got to work on that. But AB's touchdown, you get a smoke screen against off coverage. I wrote about it for Steelers Depot. You just can't play AB off like that. If you do, that's what's going to happen. So you take advantage of the opportunity. Offensive line, it seemed okay. It was obviously a tough circumstance without David Castro at right guard, Marcus Gilbert at right tackle. So you have Matt Filer making his first start at right tackle, Finney kicking over to right guard. I thought there was some issues with the tackle spots. Villanueva got called for 2 penalties. We'll talk about the penalties more extensively in a second. Had some trouble with JPP's bull rush. Filer, I think, like I wrote about in my winners losers column, probably going to charge him for at least 1 sack. Not that he gave it up directly, but it led to pressure that led to the sack. But overall, you get the job done. I guess it wasn't too bad, but it's just tough. Steelers don't generally have a ton of success against a 4-3 front because they just don't practice it. They don't see it too often. And so I wasn't surprised that the run game struggled again, given the injuries, given that the Bucs are, I think, a good front seven, and the even front that they just don't see that often kind of always gives them some fits. But we'll go back to the tape. Like I said, offensive line is tough to review live, and hopefully you get the Castro and Gilbert back for Baltimore. Defensively, I wrote about it this morning, and hopefully my point was clear what I wrote about when I said, this is as good as it gets for the Steelers defense. They're going to give up yards because, one, that's the nature of the league. I mean, most teams do give up yards, but the Steelers, obviously, the talent isn't there. This isn't the Steel Curtain. This isn't the 2000 Ravens. So, they're going to give up chunk plays. They're going to give up big yards. That's what happened against Tampa. They're going to make you nervous pretty much all the time. But I think they're capable of creating some pressure, which will create some impact plays in the secondary. And that's kind of how things unfolded yesterday. Yes, they were frustrating, and they gave us some plays that you just shouldn't have given up, whether that's a 3rd and 18 screen for a first down, some of the touchdowns they allowed that seemed uncontested, just some of the stuff that pulls your hair out. But again, 4 turnovers in the first half. You're good situationally. I think the Bucs were 3 and 9 on 3rd down. I think they were 2 of 5 in the red zone. That's the key to Steelers' success, is that you have to just kind of accept that they're going to give up some big plays vertically and after the catch, and occasionally get gashed in the run game more than what you're probably comfortable with. But if they can just kind of produce that timely splash, give the offense 1 or 2 short fields as they did against Tampa, if they can hold firm on a 3rd and long where they're supposed to do, or a big red zone stop, which they were actually pretty good at last year and had a nice outing Monday night, then you're going to set this team up to be competitive in every single game, let the offense do its work, and that's going to put you in a position to win. So that's what I mean when I say this is as good as a defense gets. Not that they're always going to allow 30 points per game, because they won't. Yes, there'll be games that are better than others, but just on the whole, anytime you're facing a strong offense, or even just an above average offense, this is kind of how the defense is going to go and how it's going to have to succeed. If they can't produce a splash, if they can't play well situationally, it's going to be a long day. But if they can do those just timely plays, making 3 or 4 plays per game, not perfect across the board, then you give this team and this offense a fighting chance. And that's kind of how I view this defense right now, because there is some talent, but clearly there's a lot of problems too, as we've outlined. And I just, defending some of these receivers with the secondary the Steelers have is going to be a tall task. And that's what happens at the cornerback spot. Joe Hayden getting his return was huge. I think it allowed the Steelers to play more man coverage, which was beneficial, but the other cornerback spot is still a mess. Rotating Sensabaugh and Burns, and both definitely had their problems, and Tomlin basically said post-game they're going to have to just keep rotating and wait for somebody to emerge. You have Mike Hilton with an elbow injury in the slot. I know his prognosis seemed to be more positive than what Tomlin said, but who knows? The player is always more positive. I know Tomlin's going to do the injury report. Probably have already issued it by the time you're listening to this, almost certainly so. So he will have a better outlook there. But it's possible that Hilton's going to miss some time, and that'll almost certainly push Cam Sutton back into the slot and go from there. So Edmonds seemed okay. Davis seemed, okay. They blitzed him a little bit. The nice thing about Davis is he has that strong safety mentality, so he can come downhill and make some plays in the alley and in the run game and the short pass game. So I saw a little bit of that from him. But That's the key for this defense, is just being able to create that splash and finish their plays. Had some opportunities to get Fitzpatrick down more than the 3 sacks that they had, and couldn't capitalize on it. So that's something else you're looking for too. If you can create those sacks, put teams in third and long, and then just naturally give your defense positions where they're highly likely to win and succeed. And if it's third and 15 plus, though again they gave up a third and 18 screen, I think in the fourth quarter yesterday. But that's my overall thought on the defense. So hopefully that point was clear. They're not the worst defense in the league, far from the best, but they have to be able to create that splash and play situational football well to be able to succeed, because they're just not going to win on an every down basis the way that some of the best defenses in the NFL will. To wrap things up, special teams, obviously Boss keeps missing. That's a concern, but hopefully he figures it out. I'm not I'm not on the train of thought and under the bandwagon of let's replace Boz, let's think about replacing Boz. He's got to kick through it. He still had some rough weather conditions to kick through, whether that's Cleveland week 1. The field was a mess in Tampa yesterday. It poured apparently right before the game started. I think it let up during the game, but the field was ugly, so maybe that has some factors. And just hopefully, he kicks through it. You've seen what he's been able to do before, and hopefully he gets it right. So, certainly not at the point where you're looking for a replacement just yet. Ryan Switzer, I thought was really solid. Obviously caught a touchdown pass, but I thought the punt he fielded in the fourth quarter on the final drive was huge. It was a great punt from Tampa Bay. It was tough to track that football. Switzer had to move backwards, catch it over his shoulder. He caught it clean, got upfield. I think he got 15 yards on the return. So that's a play that could have easily been muffed or let the ball bounce, and you're starting at your own 5 or something like that, and then you're in a really tough spot, and the pressure's certainly on at that point. So Switzer's a natural punt returner, and you probably don't have any better example of him being a natural at it than that particular play. I thought that was a huge play, an excellent one from Ryan Switzer. So that's nice to see. Jordan Berry a little bit better as well. So another positive there. Last things, the penalties, as I mentioned before. Steelers have 37 in their first 3 games. That is a franchise record. That's the most since 1998 by the Oakland Raiders. That's got to change. Yes, some of the roughing the passing calls are bad. I'll just come out and say it. They're bad. But a lot of it's self-inflicted. There's a lot of things that can be avoided. This team's got to clean things up, as they did last year, where they started kind of a penalty mess, and they figured it out as the year went on. But that's on players, that's on coaching. It just depends what penalty you're talking about. If it's a holding call, it's probably more on the player. If it's a legal formation or something like that, it could be more on the coaching staff for not getting these guys prepped up. But regardless of who to blame, it's got to be fixed. You can't win games consistently where you're getting 10-plus penalties. And now you're facing an AFC North team where these margins are always razor thin. They're Baltimore Steelers. They're almost always one-possession games. And if you get 10 to 13 penalties, you're putting yourself in a major hole, and your odds of winning go way down. So big test against Baltimore this weekend, but again, you get a victory there. You're 2-1-1. The sun is out again. Everyone's smiling. Everyone's happy. And so that's where the Steelers are at. So we'll definitely cover this Ravens game. We'll cover on this Bucs game as much as we can. Let me know your thoughts on Tampa Bay or Baltimore, or really anything else that's on your mind. Whether you're watching on YouTube, Steelers Depot, or following me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.